I once heard a rabbinic story about a pious old man who skipped services before the high holy days in order to sit down and make a list of everything which had caused him pain that year. Before beginning to ask forgiveness for all he had done wrong, it seems he felt the need to first sit down with God and inform the eternal of all the things he believed God was responsible for that year. Things that needed forgiveness. Natural disasters, acts of terror, financial downturns, and personal tragic moments all made his list. As he went on and on, we're told that God simply sat there with him, patiently listening. There's something about this story that I love that has remained with me for years, and every time I retell it, it changes a little for me. I remember years ago transforming the story into a lesson about how God listened and accepted the man's anger, trying to convey that being angry when bad things happen is perfectly acceptable to God. While I do still believe that's true, I think back on this fictional Jewish man now, and I worry for him, that he carried so much pain and so much anger into the new year. Of course, it's okay with God if we're angry, sad, or disappointed, or even broken. But in Judaism, those are not places where the stories end. Rather, it's from those moments that the stories of our lives truly begin. In a book on overcoming life's disappointments, Rabbi Harold Kushner writes, "Instead of giving us a friendly world that would never challenge and therefore never make us strong, God gave us a world that would inevitably break our hearts, and compensated for that by planting in our souls the gift of resilience." Yes, this world has horrible things that happen. We can be hurt. We can feel broken. Life causes damages to what we find precious. And we know that brokenness itself is an essential part of our world and our narrative. Our tradition asserts that all of our souls were present at Sinai, and we watched as Moses reached the bottom of the mountain, saw the Israelites worshiping a golden calf, and in anger smashed the precious tablets to the ground. And we felt it as bits and pieces of those two tablets flew out and entered the souls of all those present. We're taught that Moses' action of breaking the tablets left us with a shard of brokenness in our souls, and this precious, holy brokenness, which originated from God's own words, remains with us still. Life can be hard. Life can be cruel. Many, if not all of us, have experienced moments which left our hearts, our bodies, or our minds badly wounded. While I will not pretend to have an answer for why this brokenness exists, I'd like to suggest that we can work to turn our broken pieces into a mosaic of hope. Rabbi Andy Berlin writes, there's a term used in trauma work, strong in the broken places. It's based on the fact that our bones are strongest at the point where they've healed after a break. Strong in the broken places, so too is our spirit. It is where it is broken that we find it to be most whole. This idea, strong in the broken places, does not try to offer meaning to that which has been broken. Rather, it simply and profoundly notes that when something's broken, it may be treated with such purposeful care and awareness that it eventually ends up stronger than the rest of us. Strong in the broken places, one of my favorite ideas, applies to so much more than our bones. The world we live in today can feel broken in many ways. The vandalism perpetrated on our building is just another reason for us to be sad, shocked, hurt, fearful. And the truth is, the darkness in our lives, in our city, in our world, can indeed feel quite overwhelming, scary, and even paralyze us. In these darkest times, so many of us feel as though we are barely hanging on by a thread. But the truth is, a thread is all we need. Rabbi Amanda Green writes that hope is that thread that we continue to hold onto during the darkest moments in our own lives and in our world. It is the common thread that we as a Jewish people hold onto ever so tightly when nothing is promised and nothing is guaranteed. You see, she makes this connection by looking back at the biblical origin of the Hebrew word for hope, Tikva. It comes from an unusual story about a Canaanite harlot named Rahab, who is rewarded with a scarlet tikva, thread, to hang from her window. This scarlet thread becomes Rahab's only guarantee that her household will be safe. This thread was literally her tikva, her only hope. Rabbi Green reminds us here that hope in Judaism is not about finding a happy ending and everything turning out for the best. These are American concepts. Jewish hope is different. It's not a hope that guarantees happy endings for all. It's not a hope that makes everything better. Rather, it's the thread we hold onto when the world around us falls apart. It's a reminder to be resilient, a symbol of the strength that will come from the brokenness that abounds. Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel beautifully taught this lesson as well, writing that hope is a conviction rooted in trust, an ability to soar above the darkness that overshadows the divine. Our Jewish tradition teaches that we can and we must overshadow darkness. Regardless of what happens, we continue to hope as we continue to work towards making the world more whole. This doesn't mean we can't be angry or sad when bad things happen. It simply means that even in our anger and sadness, we must hold out a thread of hope that something better is to come.